The research vessel, Xenopath Omega, drifted through the neutral zone's edge, its hull gleaming against the backdrop of distant nebulae. Within its reinforced containment bay, the most dangerous specimen ever captured lay motionless behind a shimmering energy barrier. The creature collected from the Class 11 death world Taraxis Prime had been unconscious for the entire 3-week journey to the interstellar laboratory facilities in the Galactic Union's core worlds. Cadet Lyra's chitinous plates clicked nervously as she adjusted her position at the monitoring console. As an Arthosian, fresh from the academy, she had never imagined her first rotation would involve supervising a Deathworld apex predator. The assignment seemed almost like punishment, though she couldn't recall doing anything to deserve it. "Remember, Cadet." Dr. Mears' voice rippled through the air via chemical signals, her fungal form pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. "This specimen's neurotoxin production rivals that of a Venusian deathworm. Even in stasis, maintain maximum distance." Commander Yelvan, her gaseous form shimmering with electromagnetic discharge, floated near the main observation panel. "The energy readings remain stable, though I confess the creature's apparent docility concerns me more than its reputation." Security Chief Kator's armored reptilian hide clicked as he shifted position, his 4 eyes never leaving the containment field. "Docile or not, I've seen what Deathworld species can do. My weapons are charged and ready." Lyra nodded, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. The training simulations had covered theoretical encounters with dangerous xenobiological specimens, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of standing meters away from something that could allegedly tear through reinforced hull plating with its bare limbs. The creature itself defied easy categorization. Bipedal like several galactic species, but with proportions that seemed almost familiar yet alien. Its skin was pale, almost translucent, stretched over a muscular frame that spoke of natural weaponry. What unnerved Lyra most were its closed eyes, too similar to her own, as if staring back even in unconsciousness. She turned back to her console, checking the atmospheric readings one more time. Everything appeared normal. The containment field hummed steadily at optimal frequency. Life support systems showed green across the board. Perhaps this rotation wouldn't be as terrifying as she'd imagined. That's when it happened. Lyra reached for a data pad that had slipped behind the console, stretching just a bit too far. The edge of the metal scratched against her outer carapace, creating a small but deep cut. Her hemolymph, the pale blue fluid that served as her blood, welled up immediately, carrying with it the distinctive acidic scent that marked her as Arthosian. The reaction was instantaneous. The creature's nostrils flared. Its head turned, still apparently unconscious, toward the barrier. Then its eyes opened. Not the slow, groggy awakening of someone emerging from stasis, but the sharp predatorial focus of a hunter detecting prey. Lyra stumbled backward, her mandibles clicking in alarm. The creature rose smoothly to its feet, moving with a fluid grace that belied its supposed unconsciousness. It approached the energy barrier, and then something impossible happened. It smiled. Not the mindless snarl of a wild beast, but the calculating expression of an intelligent being. The creature pressed closer to the barrier, inhaling deeply, its smile widening to reveal Predator's teeth. For a moment that stretched like an eternity, human and Arthosian stared at each other across the humming energy field. Then, without warning, the creature collapsed. What in the 7 moons was that? Kator's weapon was already in his hands, charging with an ominous whine. Biosigns are fluctuating wildly. Dr. Meir reported her sensory tendrils dancing over the console. Neurotransmitter levels spiked, then dropped to near flatline. Temperature variations suggest conscious control over metabolic functions. Commander Yelvan's form brightened with agitation. Conscious control. You're suggesting this creature is deliberately manipulating its vital signs? Lyra watched the readouts with growing unease. The patterns didn't make sense. Random spikes in neural activity, temperature fluctuations that followed no biological pattern, electromagnetic emissions that seemed almost communicative. Dr. Lyra ventured, her voice barely above a whisper. Could you access the historical files on this species? Something about its behavior seems familiar, Dr. Murr finished. I was thinking the same thing, but the records list this as an unknown species from Taraxis Prime. No prior contact, no classification beyond extreme threat. Kator growled, his scales shifting to more aggressive coloration. I don't care if it's performing tricks. One movement toward that barrier and I'm vaporizing it. But Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that the creature was listening. Even motionless, even apparently unconscious, there was something about its posture that suggested awareness. The way its head was tilted as if straining to hear. The slight tension in its shoulders that spoke of readiness rather than relaxation. Doctor, she said more insistently, please check the archives. Look for bipedal species intelligence indicators, anything that might explain this behavior. Dr. Murr's fungal mass pulsed with reluctance. The files you're asking about are restricted, academic access only, and some require special authorization. Then get it. Commander Yelvan interjected, her gaseous form swirling with decision. This situation is beyond our current protocols. For the next hour, Dr. Mir worked through the restricted archives, while the rest of the team watched their motionless prisoner. Lyra found herself staring at the creature's face, trying to understand what bothered her so much about its features. There was something almost impossible. Dr. Mir breathed, her chemical signals sharp with shock. What did you find? Yelvan demanded. According to the deep archives, there are records of a species matching this description. Bipedal, intelligent from a Class 12 death world. But according to all official records, they went extinct approximately 4,000 cycles ago. Kator's weapons powered up another level. Extinct doesn't mean much if one's standing in front of us. The species designation was unusual, Dr. Mir continued. They called themselves humans. The records are fragmentary, but they describe a species with remarkable adaptability tool use, and most notably a tendency toward strategic thinking that often left other species unable to predict their actions. Lyra felt a chill run through her exoskeleton. Strategic thinking, like pretending to be unconscious when you're not. The records are incomplete, Dr. Mir admitted. Most were destroyed or lost during the Great Archive Purge, but what remains suggests they were formidable, not just physically but mentally. They were apparently capable of complex deception, long-term planning, and had an unusual ability to remain calm under extreme pressure. The creature's breathing changed. Subtle, almost imperceptible, but Lyra caught it. The rhythm had shifted from the deep, slow pattern of unconsciousness to something more controlled, more deliberate. It's listening, she said quietly. What? Kator spun toward her. The breathing pattern. It changed when Dr. Meyer mentioned humans. It's listening to us. Commander Yelvan's form compressed with tension. Are you suggesting this creature understands our language? Before Lyra could answer, the creature spoke. Your linguistic patterns are actually quite logical once you understand the electromagnetic component of your speech, Commander Yelvan. The containment bay erupted into chaos. Kator's weapon discharged harmlessly against the energy barrier. Dr. Mir's bioluminescence flared in shock. Commander Yelvan's gaseous form scattered momentarily before reforming. The creature, the human, sat up slowly. Hands raised in what Lyra somehow recognized as a peaceful gesture. He looked entirely calm, as if waking up in an alien containment field surrounded by agitated xenobiological researchers was something he did every day. My name is Lieutenant Kane Arlen Ibiberpin, Exploration Corps 1st Discovery Fleet. He said, his voice steady and clear. I've been awake since the young lady cut herself, and I caught the scent of her blood. I chose to play dead to avoid unnecessary conflict. Kator kept his weapon trained on the barrier scales, flushed dark with aggression. Deception. Kill it now. Wait. Commander Yelvan commanded, her form stabilizing. If you've been conscious this entire time, why didn't you attempt escape? Kane smiled again, that same calculating expression, that had unnerved Lyra. "Because, Commander, I've been studying your ship, your language, your technology, and your intentions. Playing dead gave me time to understand the situation and consider my options. As it turns out, you're not pirates or slavers, just researchers who made an understandable mistake." Mistake. Dr. Mears' chemical signals carried confusion and dawning comprehension. "You mean finding you on Taraxis Prime?" "I wasn't native to Taraxis Prime," Kane explained patiently. "I was conducting a survey mission when my ship suffered mechanical failure. I'd been stranded there for 6 months when your team found me. I was actually rather hoping for rescue." Lyra found her voice. "But the records say humans are extinct." Kane's laugh was genuinely amused. "Reports of our extinction have been greatly exaggerated. We simply learned that sometimes it's better to be thought dead than to deal with the galaxy's tendency to shoot first and ask questions later." "You're saying your entire species has been hiding?" Yelvin's electromagnetic patterns flickered with disbelief. "Not hiding exactly. More like maintaining a low profile. We've found that being considered a dangerous myth has certain advantages over being considered a dangerous reality." Dr. Mears' tendrils writhed as she processed this information. "The archives suggest humans were considered a significant threat to galactic stability. Only because other species kept declaring war on us," Kane replied with a shrug. "We developed a preference for avoiding conflicts rather than winning them. Much more efficient with fewer casualties on all sides." Kator had not lowered his weapon. "If humans still exist, where are they?" "What do you want?" Kane glanced at the security chief, then at the containment barrier. "Well, right now, I'd appreciate getting out of this cage. As for where we are, you might want to check your long-range sensors." Commander Yelvan immediately accessed the sensor array through her electromagnetic interface. Her form brightened sharply. "There are 17 vessels in a standard escort formation, previously undetected, stealth technology unknown." "Ah, good," Kane said cheerfully. "They managed to follow your ship without being detected. I was beginning to worry my rescue beacon hadn't been received." "Rescue beacon?" Lyra asked. Kane tapped his temple, implanted transmitter, activated the moment I was captured. "I've been broadcasting our conversations, by the way. My superiors wanted to assess the current state of galactic civilization before making any decisions about renewed contact." The implications hit everyone simultaneously. He hadn't just been listening. He'd been recording everything, transmitting it to a human fleet that had tracked them across who knew how many light years. "What happens now?" Commander Yelvan asked, her voice tight with tension. Kane considered this. "That rather depends on you. My mission was reconnaissance, not first contact. I've learned what I needed to learn about current galactic politics and technology. You've been professional, if somewhat paranoid in your treatment of me. I see no reason this encounter can't end peacefully." "And if we refuse to release you," Kator demanded. Kane's smile grew wider. "Then my shipmates will be forced to retrieve me. They're remarkably good at that sort of thing. But honestly, I prefer not to test your containment systems against human engineering. It tends to be embarrassing for everyone involved." Dr. Mears spoke up. "You mentioned studying our technology. What did you learn?" "Quite a lot, actually. Your containment field operates on a fascinating quantum entanglement principle. Your ship's computer systems use a biological base that's highly efficient. Your weapons are adequate for most purposes." Kane paused thoughtfully. "Though I should mention that the containment field has been operating at about 60% effectiveness for the past 2 hours." "What?" Kator checked his instruments frantically. "I've been slowly adjusting the harmonic frequency through electromagnetic manipulation. Nothing dangerous. Just enough to ensure I could leave if necessary. I've actually been quite impressed by the engineering. Took me much longer to crack than I expected." The revelation that their apex security measure had been casually bypassed sent another wave of alarm through the crew. Lyra realized she was witnessing something unprecedented, Not just first contact with a supposedly extinct species, but a demonstration of capabilities that rendered their most advanced technology merely adequate. "What do you want from us?" Commander Yelvan asked finally. Kane stood slowly, his movements fluid and non-threatening, despite being in a containment field. "Right now, to be released so I can return to my ship and report back to command. Beyond that, perhaps an exchange of information that benefits both our peoples. We've been watching the galaxy from the shadows for quite some time. We might have insights that could be useful." "And in exchange?" Dr. Mir asked. "We share what we've learned about survival adaptation and avoiding unnecessary conflicts. Believe it or not, we've become quite good at problem solving over the centuries." Commander Yelvan's form swirled as she processed the situation. Here was a species that had effectively faked its own extinction, maintained hidden fleets, and possessed technology that could circumvent the best the Galactic Union had to offer. Yet this human seemed to prefer negotiation over conflict. "I'll need to contact Galactic Command," she said finally. "Of course," Kane agreed. "Though I should mention that I've been monitoring your communications suite. Your next scheduled contact isn't for another 18 hours. By coincidence, that should give us enough time to have a proper conversation and reach an understanding." Lyra suddenly understood something that had been nagging at her. "You've been planning this entire encounter, haven't you?" "From the moment you woke up when I bled." Kane's expression grew more serious. "The moment I scented Arthosian blood, I knew I was on a research vessel rather than a military ship. That suggested scientists rather than soldiers, which meant curiosity rather than aggression. I calculated that playing dead would give me time to assess the situation and find a peaceful resolution. And if we had been hostile?" Kator asked, his weapon finally lowering slightly. "Then I would have disabled your ship and taken a shuttle home," Kane said matter-of-factly. "But that would have been messy and unpleasant for everyone. I much prefer this approach." Dr. Mir's tendrils quivered with scientific excitement. "Your species has survived by strategic thinking and preparation. Fascinating. The archives suggested as much, but to see it in practice. We learned early on that the galaxy has a tendency toward violence," Kane explained. "Rather than try to outfight everyone, we decided to outthink them. Much more survival-oriented approach." Commander Yelvan made a decision. "I'm willing to negotiate your release in exchange for information, but I want assurances about your fleet's intentions." Kane nodded. "My ships will withdraw once I'm released. No aggressive actions, no territorial claims. We simply want to update our understanding of current galactic politics and assess whether it's time to formally reestablish contact." "And if we refuse?" Kator asked again. Kane's smile returned, but there was something predatory about it now. "Then you'll discover why Deathworld species earned that designation. But I sincerely hope it doesn't come to that." The negotiation took another hour. Kane answered questions about human technology philosophy and intentions with remarkable candor. He explained that humanity had spent the last 4 millennia observing galactic civilization, from the shadows occasionally intervening when threats became too severe to ignore. "We prevented the Crystalline Empire from stripping the atmosphere from 15 inhabited worlds," he mentioned casually. "And the void-touched plague that almost reached the inner systems, that was us cleaning up after an experiment that got out of hand." As the conversation progressed, Lyra found herself increasingly impressed by Kane's combination of intelligent planning and genuine concern for galactic stability. This wasn't a conqueror or destroyer. This was someone who had dedicated his life to prevention rather than reaction. Finally, Commander Yelvan made her decision. "I'm authorizing your release, Lieutenant Arlen. In exchange, I want a full cultural exchange briefing and ongoing communication protocols established." "Agreed," Kane said immediately. "And Commander, thank you for choosing the diplomatic option. My superiors will be very interested in these proceedings." Kator deactivated the containment field. Kane stepped out slowly, hands visible, making no sudden movements. Despite being 1 being against 4, He somehow seemed to be the one in control of the situation. "There is one thing I should mention," Kane said as he stretched. Cadet Lyra's blood scent triggered an instinctive response. Humans have an unusual relationship with the concept of blood. It activates ancient survival protocols. I had to consciously suppress the urge to determine if she was injured and required assistance. Lyra's mandibles clicked in surprise. "You wanted to help me." Deathworld survival often depends on pack cooperation, Kane explained. When a member of the group is injured, you help them or the entire group suffers. It's programmed pretty deeply into our thinking. As Kane prepared to leave, escorted by the full security team, he paused at the exit to the containment bay. "Dr. Murr, you asked what we've learned about survival," he said. "The most important lesson is this. The strongest don't always survive and the smartest don't always thrive. But those who can adapt, cooperate, and find peaceful solutions, we tend to do quite well." Following standard first contact protocols, the Xenopath Omega arranged for Kane's transfer to his own people. As promised, 17 sleek ships decloaked around the research vessel. They were unlike anything in the Galactic Union's databases. Organic curves mixed with technological precision, clearly built for long-range operation and stealth. Kane's shuttle docked with the nearest vessel. Before leaving, he transmitted a final message to the research ship. "Thank you for your hospitality, Xenopath Omega. You'll find a cultural exchange packet in your computers. My people will be in touch through official channels within the next cycle. And Cadet Lyra, your bleeding probably saved everyone a lot of trouble. Sometimes the smallest accidents have the biggest consequences." As the human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, Commander Yelvan updated the official records. Under the entry for humans, she added status mythological beings, under review. Lyra looked down at the small cut on her carapace, now bandaged and healing. Such a tiny wound, hardly worth noticing. Yet, it had been enough to wake a legend from deliberate sleep to trigger an encounter that might reshape galactic politics. She wondered if this was an ending or a beginning. Given what she'd learned about humans in the past few hours, she suspected it was probably both. Dr. Murr approached her station chemical signals bright with excitement. "Cadet, I've been reviewing the cultural exchange packet Kane transmitted. The information here could revolutionize our understanding of conflict resolution, technological development, and xenobiological adaptation." Commander Yelvan's gaseous form shimmered as she accessed the new data. They've included star charts showing safe passage through previously unknown sectors, technological solutions to 6 different galactic-level problems and proposals for several joint research initiatives. Kaitor, who had been unusually quiet since Kane's departure, finally spoke. "They could have taken our ship. Easily. Instead, they offered to help us navigate dangerous space. I may need to reconsider my opinions about Deathworld species." Lyra nodded, still staring at her bandaged cut. In all her academy training, no one had prepared her for the possibility that the most dangerous creature they might encounter would turn out to be an ally they never knew they needed. As the Xenopath Omega resumed course toward the inner systems, its computers automatically updated the threat assessment for human encounters. Previous rating: Extreme Lethal Force Authorized. New rating: Diplomatic Contact Preferred. Proceed with caution and respect. In her personal log that night, Lyra made a final entry about the incident. "Today, I learned that sometimes the deadliest thing about apex predators isn't their claws or fangs. It's their ability to choose when or not to use them." She looked once more at her healing cut, the small wound that had changed everything. Somewhere in the vast space between stars, Kane Arlen and his people continued their patient vigil, watching over a galaxy that had forgotten they existed. And perhaps she thought, as she drifted off to sleep, that was exactly how they preferred it. The next morning brought new orders from Galactic Command. The Xenopath Omega was to proceed to the Union's capital world at best speed. The Council of Species had voted for an emergency session to discuss the implications of human survival and their obvious technological superiority. But as Commander Yelvan prepared her report, she found herself smiling, a chemical expression of amusement that few non-gaseous species would recognize. Kane had been right about one thing: humans certainly knew how to make an impression. In the depths of space, 17 ships continued on their original mission, their existence now acknowledged, but their purposes still mysterious. And aboard the lead vessel, Kane Arlen filed his own report, noting with satisfaction that first contact had proceeded exactly as planned. After all, the best way to avoid a fight was to make sure your opponents understood you could win it without trying. The Galactic Union was about to learn what humanity had always known. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon is the one you never have to use.